Now, I think the first thing of order is we should all talk about people we've lit on fire.
Welcome to the edge of nowhere. Monster Lore Tour Podcast. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Carr, here along with my co-host and the Batman to my Robin, Mr. Matt O'Zero, a.k.a. the Moz. How we doing today, Moz?
Good. Oh, but shouldn't it be like the Penguin to my Joker? Wouldn't that be more accurate for...
I guess that probably would be a little more relevant in our case, yeah. Little more antisocial.
Yeah. I mean, if we're doing like Bat Squatch tonight, maybe.
Ooh, the Penguin to my Joker.
Yeah.
I like that.
It should be Joker to my Penguin.
Yeah, I'm gonna save that for later. We'll use that one later. I like that it makes me the Joker.
No, I should be the Joker.
You're the
trickster.
Joker?
I'm the trickster.
I don't want to be the Penguin.
Archetype. You don't want to be the Penguin? Well, then you can say the Riddler to my Joker.
Oh, the Riddler to my Joker. That makes more sense, like riddles and jokes anyway.
Oh,
I like the Riddler. Good. All right.
Cool.
I'll put it on the list for later.
Nice.
Right now, you're Batman and I'm Robin.
Okay. Well, what? What just happened? All right. No.
And the reason you're...
Let's just...
The reason you're the Batman is that you get to lead episode 1.
Wow, that's right.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about it.
What are we going to talk about today?
What are monsters? This is an intro episode, kids, so we're just going to get started. And we just want to, get the lay of the land and explain why we're doing this, why we're interested, what are monsters.
What we're going to be covering topics-wise and whatnot.
Yeah, our outline. It's actually going to be a great episode, and you might want to skip it and jump to something we think is funner, but this is going to be awesome. So stick around. That's my theory.
Telling them to leave already, and we just got started.
Yeah, that's it. That's my wrap-up. So.
All right. Well, before we do the
wrap-up, we should do the episode. Since we want to do deep dives here, everybody starts off with the Nietzsche one, with the stare into the abyss long enough, the abyss stares back. We're not going to do that.
When I stare into the abyss, I seem to see it cringe.
Yeah. We've been staring in the abyss for a year and a half preparing for this.
Not an exaggeration.
We've done enough abyss staring. No more abyss staring for you.
We're now jumping in.
I'm jumping into another Nietzsche quote that we're starting with because we're so past the abyss shit. A preference for questionable and terrifying things is a symptom of strength. Friedrich Nietzsche.
I can dig that.
Yeah. We're not going to, we skip the whole abyss stuff.
So when you, like
James Cameron
liking fear
kind of thing
gives you strength. Like running into the fire.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the hero's, we're on the hero's journey now.
Yeah, dig it, man.
We're going to dig it. So first I have a special treat to start, though. It's a surprise. Do you want to guess?
No.
This weekend, we're invited to my friend Ash Williams' cabin out in the Tennessee woods. There's an anthropologist out there already, and he's found a book bound in human flesh.
Why does this sound familiar?
I think we'll just bring the girls. It's going to be great.
Oh, should I bring my chainsaw and my shotgun?
There you go. Yeah. The boom boom stick. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Join us.
One of us. Dead by
no,
dawn.
We're not going to do
Dead
that.
by dawn.
We are not going to do that. We're brave sometimes, but we're not that brave. Today we want to give an overview of what we're doing here, though. We want to get to the truth. We do want to do a deep dive, and we love the podcasts that are out there, but they don't quite seem to be deep divey what we're kind of shooting for. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're right. You can let us know, but we want to try to, I don't know.
Get a little more into it, make some more connections, theorize a bit. Basically what we try to do is bring you all the different angles we can find on these things and then try to figure out what it all might mean.
And I want to bring something new to it each week, and I want to solve some of this stuff. I want to pull the mask off of Mr. Perkin Jenkins.
And we did say we needed
Scooby-Doo.
to make the pact. I think we should do it on the air right now.
Oh, the pact. Yeah, the truth.
Any episode we do, the
Yes.
one I'm talking about, any
Oh.
episode we do,
Okay.
we have to bring something new to the table that
Right.
we at least can't find anyone else saying about what we're talking
Who brought
about.
the Raposado? I did.
There you go.
I brought something new to this table.
There you go.
That was our kickoff. You know, we're
Little
trying to
tequila
celebrate
before we go.
Trying to
Loosen it up a
celebrate.
little bit.
Trying to celebrate. But I do think we're going to bring a lot of new and exciting things to this. And I didn't think that a year and a half ago, which is why we took so long. Part of it was I was a naysayer. I didn't want to do another episode on Thunderbirds, another episode on Chupacabra. We are going to do that. But we're going to try to add something. Not made
Right.
up something. We're going to actually try to...
And we're going to do a lot of multi-parter kind of stuff.
Yes.
One thing leading into another.
One thing
Going on
one
kind of-
thing leads to another.
Going kind of on these arcs that follow the,
That was
you know,
an 80s arc.
yeah, I don't know what that was, honestly. I had a hard time keeping my train of thought, wondering what the hell
Sorry.
you were doing.
I sing in the background sometimes. You should know that.
Okay, anywho.
So I
What
have
do
a
we got?
definition. I have a definition for you. Really quickly, monster started off in Latin with how would you say M-O-N-E-R-E. We're not good at pronouncing
M-O-N, Monair.
Monair, so to warn. And then Latin became monstrum, portent of monster. And then Old French, it turned to monstre, M-O-N-S-T-R-E. By
We're
late
almost there.
Middle English, we got to monster.
Oh, so it's Middle English, so it's been around a while in that vernacular, in that form.
Yeah, and it's a warning. We're going to break down this word much more in the future for sure, but that's your warning about this warning. So you've been warned that monsters are a warning.
Repeatedly.
Repeatedly warned. You've been warned. You know, back in the day, though, the edge of maps were often labeled "Here be monsters" to mark unknown territories and boundaries. So here's a quote is a doozy of a Duzer quote from Chet Van Duzer, 2012.
Well, there's a lot of doozing in
Geography
there.
of cartography of monsters. The knowledge from the experience of everyday life that monsters are known to be a small percentage of the overall population, whereas at the edges of the world we hear of little except monsters. At the boundaries.
What does he mean by the edges?
By the edge of the water for cartography, so on the map.
Oh,
here
and like
be
in the
monsters.
tree line next to the field,
At every boundary, yeah. Everywhere there's a
in
boundary.
the sky, in the cave, boundary. I get it. Okay.
Boundary. We don't hear a lot about them in the village, but we hear a lot about them
On the
on the
edge. They're all on the edge.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yep. Monsters as boundaries. Here's a cool history of cryptozoology overview, and this is your first little reading. We're going to see how Jeremy does with actually
I'm reading already?
the English language. We'll see.
This is from A Tricky Matter of Cryptozoology and Proper Terminology on mysteriousuniverse.org. The first thing to be understood is just what constitutes a cryptid, and just what cryptozoology entails. The term cryptozoology itself was first coined by French-Belgian zoologist Bernard Llewellyn and his colleague, Scottish zoologist Ivan T. Sanderson, who both wrote numerous books on the subject, such as Llewellyn's groundbreaking work on the track of unknown animals in 1955. Although the two were pioneers in the field, Llewellyn himself would credit the term cryptozoology to Sanderson, who put together the Greek word kryptos, K-R-Y-P-T-O-S, kryptos, meaning hidden, with zoology, which literally became the study of hidden animals. As for the term cryptid, this word can most clearly be traced back to a September 1983 article in the International Society of Cryptozoology newsletter, in which cryptozoologist J.E. Wall proposed calling these hidden creatures cryptids, meaning a living thing having the quality of being hidden or unknown.
Again, that was Tricky Matters of Cryptozoology and Proper Terminology. I did have to borrow a brief history, but I feel like that was a good one. It was a few paragraphs, but sums it up nicely.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that the term cryptid was actually that recent. Just 1983 was when it was coined. So cryptozoology is the technical term
Right.
from which cryptid grew.
Cryptid came from.
Right.
Okay.
Sprang from the cryptid,
cryptid
sprang
sprang.
from the
Sprang from the zoo.
zoology. Yeah. The cryptid escaped the zoo.
Exactly. At the boundaries. That same Mysterious Universe blogger also stressed the importance of getting our terminology right. And it's like it's never big feets, it's Bigfoot, even if you're talking about plural.
Bigfoots?
It's not. It's Bigfoot, regardless of the amount. It's not big feet. It's
so
not
it's like
Bigfoot.
deer. There's a deer. There's some deer.
There's a Bigfoot. And
there's a Bigfoot. There's some
Bigfoot. If it's a herd
Bigfoot.
of Bigfoot, or if it's just a Bigfoot, it's Bigfoot. And I think there's a few things that might be good ground rules. He also tries to define, and I like this, between ethno-known creatures, things that were in the area that have been talked about in a tribe for decades or centuries.
Right, the more mythical.
Well, not even mythical.
Creatures that have been there forever.
Ethno-known, like the Mapangwari or the Ogopogo or Big Feets.
Okay.
Dang it. I heard.
Big feets.
You
did it wrong twice in one.
I did not even do that.
It's either big foots or big feet.
Oh, my goodness. No,
it's Bigfoot. Just always
correct.
Bigfoot.
Okay. I was just testing you. But those are ethno-known creatures. And then that's a cryptid. But if it's just something more kind of shapeshiftery, shadow people-y, paranormal-y, he wants to use the word cryptoid.
Something even less defined.
Yes. Cryptoid and cryptid.
Cryptoid.
I like it because cryptid is a creature that this group has seen and they think is out there. Cryptoid is something that
like one person saw the cryptoid, a bunch of people saw the cryptid.
That's part of it, and the other part of it is it's more shapeshiftery, paranormal. It's a different
and generally known, like it's in the zeitgeist, so to speak.
Ethno-known is the cryptid.
Yeah,
and cryptoid is your more of the paranormal type.
Okay.
Changing shapes, changing patterns, more chimeric. Something that really couldn't possibly be, actually. That doesn't seem like it's even could possibly be an actual physical entity.
Right.
So
like a Glimmerman sort of thing.
Right. Now that we got little ground rules we have out of the way, I wanted to start off our adventure with an excerpt from Mallory's Le Morte d'Arthur. There's a reason I'm doing this.
That's a wonderful name.
King Arthur sees a beast prior to the onset of the Grail quest, so that's, I think, the best kickoff. Besides Rapasada.
The monster as the portal.
Yeah, well, we're going through the portal, yeah. The portal.
And we'll get into that as we go, definitely.
And Arthur chases down a deer, or hart it's called in this, on his horse. But he chases the horse. He rides the horse so fast the horse dies.
That's mean.
But his yeoman fetches another horse, and this is what happened when the king's sitting there. So King Arthur saw the hart ambushed and his horse dead. He set him down by a fountain, and there he fell into great thoughts. And as he sat so, him thought he heard a noise of hounds to the sum of 30. And with that the king saw coming toward him the strangest beast that ever he saw or heard of. So the beast went to the well and drank, and the noise was in the beast's belly, like unto the questing of 30 couple hounds. But all the while the beast drank, there was not noise in the beast's belly. And therewith the beast departed with a great noise, whereof the king had great marvel.
Boop. No horses or horse-adjacent cryptoids were harmed in the recording of this episode. Boop.
This is the questing beast.
What does the beast look like? It didn't describe it.
Well,
it just said it was the weirdest thing he's seen, but what is it?
Chimeric is my memory.
Oh, it's like undefinable, so it's a cryptoid.
It's a very good. It's a cryptoid, but King Arthur sees this questing beast, and this is the precursor to the Grail quest.
Wow.
So
I didn't know there was a monster portal at the front of that quest.
As a boundary, we're going to find a lot of them when there's a change in difference, and that's more from this Cohen
so it's like
guy.
A life boundary, too, like when you're having a major life change, that it's also on the edge of something where the monster shows up.
And ours is the edge of nowhere, which
wow.
is where you find the monster.
You got me thinking already here, Maz.
And when we get more steeped in the mythos, we can decipher that further. But for now, what's your first thoughts on that? He sits by the fountain, deep in thought, and he sees this thing. Do you have anything come to mind from a mythical perspective? I'm putting you on the spot just because.
It's like he's meditating.
And
he has a vision. That could tie to so many things.
There you go. You already got it. So
the meditation part is like a Buddhist thing, or what?
Many. Yeah, the tantric piece of it. You've got the meditation thing. You've got the hypnagogic hypnopompic, because he could actually be slipping into another state of consciousness.
In between mind states.
Right, and we'll talk about that. We're not going to describe. We're just talking right now.
Sure. Yeah, we're laying the
ground
land.
rules.
Yeah.
Other thing, pack of hounds and a questing beast. We have all these portal guardians. We have the pack of hounds.
Right.
We have this questing beast. We have all this kind of imagery.
And the
of
horse
portal
dying might
Right.
even play into that.
I didn't even write that one down.
The death of the horse.
Death of the horse, the sacrifice.
Wow, okay.
So
Wow, that puts a whole new spin on that whole King Arthur thing for me.
no,
That's
and
awesome.
it's, and that's. I thought that would be a good kickoff because Arthur had a vision of a beast before things started.
Yeah.
And here we go again, right?
And it makes sense because then, there's dragons and there's wizards and there's all these crazy things in that story. The Lady of the Lake and the magic sword.
Right.
Makes sense that it would start with a creature like that.
Strange women lying in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government.
Well, that holds true, but the story is the story.
That's true. So to tell us a little bit about us, if for our group, if this is Buffy, I'm Giles. If this is Scooby-Doo, I'm Velma. If this is Three Investigators.
Oh my God, you are Velma.
I am Bob Andrews of the Three Investigators.
I am
the Walrus.
Shaggy in both those cases.
I think you're more Fred. Maybe Shaggy.
Oh, I'm definitely the
You're
Shaggy.
definitely
I even have my
Shaggy.
dog with me.
You're Shaggy. Yeah, that's true.
Her name is not Scooby-Doo,
but
I do have my dog with me.
More importantly, do you remember the Three Investigators? They were like contemporary to the Hardy Boys, but they were better. We all went with like
What? Oh, you're going
Three
pre-Hardy
Investigators.
Boys.
It's kind of the same
How old
era.
are you, Moz?
How many same era?
I knew you were older
I'm
than
timeless.
me, but
I'm timeless. Moz is timeless.
I kind of remember the Hardy Boys.
You kind of remember the Hardy Boys?
I definitely don't remember the Three Investigators.
Man. But don't get me started on Scooby-Doo, though, because Scooby-Doo actually bugs me, too.
What's wrong with Scooby-Doo?
It should have been a monster, but at the end, it ends up being the only person we're introduced besides the person who called them. Every time. It's like someone calls, like, hey, can the gang come down with the mystery machine? It's always the other person.
They're
is the bad guy.
debunkers. You don't like the debunker part of it?
It's Scully.
It was their
Where's the
shtick.
Mulder? It's not a good shtick. It's kids want monsters, and we always got some criminal-minded,
Yeah, it's true. Like the ghost is never actually.
It's always
the
Mr.
ghost.
Perkin Jenkins, the gardener.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to see a banshee. Some episodes, I'm like, that has to be a banshee. How could this possibly not be a banshee?
Yeah, there should have been stuff creeping around in the background that was real.
Something. Give me something.
something.
But anyway,
We'll
Scooby-Doo
have to
was
look into
still.
that.
We
We'll
love
look into
Scooby-Doo, so don't the kids. We should have done a spoiler alert for kids who are just being introduced to Scooby-Doo. Dang,
I think they'll figure it out pretty quick.
I did, and I got very annoyed. Even though I love Scooby-Doo, I mean, we all do, obviously. We all do. DOO.
Have you watched the new Velma?
No, I haven't. No,
It's actually
but I've
really
seen
good.
Wow.
It's really, really weird. It is not what you think it is.
Yeah.
Not for the kids at all. Definitely R-rated.
Oh,
So put that out there. Definitely
Nice.
parental guidance on that one.
all right.
But yeah, I started watching it. It's really weird, but I couldn't stop. And by the end, I was like, wow, that was really good.
That's awesome.
I saw the first season anyway. I don't know if there's more or not.
Well, I also found something really cool when I was preparing this. I'm the esotericist, and you're the mystic.
I'm the mystic?
Think about this.
Esotericist and mystic.
There's via positiva versus via negativa, and that's why we're a good team. So hear me out. Via positiva likes to study the map, the levels of consciousness, learn everything, all the caves, all the monsters, Jacob's Ladder, the whole shebang, the whole kingdom of monsters, and kind of map it out.
Okay.
The via negativa, you jump to those peak experiences by doing illicit substances.
Well, not just that. You make it sound like I do a lot. I really don't.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of history with psychedelics. When I was younger, there was definitely more often, and I still do. I'm more ritualistic with it. I like to, go out in the woods and
I know you
have
do.
a real
You have peak
with it.
experiences. You jump right to the chase.
Yeah, okay.
And I am in the background plodding along, reading my books, in the library.
It's very true. I throw myself in bodily.
Right.
Whereas you like more the research part.
I'm Giles, and you're Buffy. You're kind of Buffy.
I get to be Buffy?
I think
That's some good making up for having to be Robin earlier.
Here we go.
I'm down with being Buffy. She's badass.
I'll
man.
be back at the library. But anyway, I think I'm right. And that's the two ways to seek enlightenment: viva positiva and via negativa. And I think that's why we're going to be a good team. Cause
why is my negative?
It isn't. It's not. It has a negative connotation, but it's just it's yin and yang, dude.
Gotcha.
Yin and yang. You're just coming at enlightenment from a different perspective.
Gotcha.
And mine is the long way around. Dante was more of via positiva because he had this whole.
A more positiva because you need to collect the data and the negativa. You don't need the information when you're the negativa.
It's more intuition. Mine. It's more of that INFP stuff.
Gotcha.
That we were talking about.
Okay. I do want to say though, I do still do a lot of research for my episodes though.
No,
I don't want
it's
you to
not
get the
perfect.
wrong idea.
It's really not perfect. But if we had to pick, I'm Buffy, right? Is that what we
No, I'm
established?
Buffy. You just said I could be Buffy.
Okay, this once I got to be Batman, so I guess you're Buffy.
I barely even know that show. I know I'm fighting about this.
Yeah, I know.
I just know she's a badass.
I just watched it because of this. I would never watch it except as research for the show.
Yikes! I'm afraid of where we're going now.
Oh, you should be. Oh, you should be. But I do have some of the cryptozoological rock stars, and I want to kind of get them in here. And this is your next reading coming up. I have Lorne Coleman from Maine Magazine. A reporter kind of asked Coleman if he believed in Bigfoot, and I would like Jeremy to read that response.
I believe in nothing, and I'm open-minded to everything. The evidence that I see, the tracks, the hair samples, the animals that are preyed upon, those are all the physical evidence. I don't get into the paranormal, and I'm more into my philosophical internal clock or network of taking information in. I don't investigate a Bigfoot report and believe that report. Instead, I accept or deny the evidence. I really am very cautious of the two different ends of the continuum. Both can be very confusing to the excluded middle that I occupy. There are people who accept everything. They hear a noise in the woods and they think it's a flying demon or a dragon or a thunderbird or a Bigfoot. And on the other hand, there are the debunkers, the skeptics, with a big S. If someone comes along and says, that's foolishness, or those replicas that you have at the museum are toys, it doesn't bother me. I know why I have them. It's to represent what they might look like and ask witnesses, is that near to what you saw? I use them as measuring sticks for people to compare their experience with. I really don't put a lot of energy into arguing with people, and I'm absolutely not evangelical about cryptozoology. Rather, my brain needs to be stimulated and filled with passion, with different stories, with different experiences. I don't smoke. I don't take drugs. I have cryptozoology. It's everything I need.
I made you read that for a couple of reasons.
That guy's hardcore,
This is an
man.
intervention. No, that from Lorne Coleman and the Radical Field of Cryptozoology. I was shocked, actually, because I've known Lorne for a long time. He's one of the rock stars. He's, the Mickey Mantle of cryptozoology. But he's really and this is a good time to describe a believability scale. He's like a 5. And you wouldn't think that from
He's
Lorne
right
Coleman.
in the middle. He doesn't believe or disbelieve. He just looks at the evidence. He's
trying to be a 5. Our believability scale is going to be the Scully-Mulder scale. So if you don't believe at all, you're a 1. And if you're Mulder, on the Mulder side, you're a 10. And we're going to practice this now. Here's your test for this.
Okay.
If the band Spinal Tap was an actual bona fide rock band, what number would they be on the believability scale?
11.
Very good. He understands the scale, everyone, so we can move
I can dig it.
Hopefully you guys do as well. And here's Linda Godfrey's take from I Know.
Did you know their drummer died?
No.
Spinal Tap's drummer died.
I can't even believe that.
Like he actually died.
Oh, you mean
the drummer from Spinal?
Oh,
the guy that,
I thought you were joking because it's a
right?
funny joke.
That guy had the funniest death you could ever have, and he's going to live forever. Because now forever, the joke is, did you hear the drummer from Spinal Tap died?
Wow. That
know?
And it's terrible, but it's awesome.
Yeah. So. Yeah, there you go.
But here's Linda Godfrey, and another, I guess, a side note is I handed a Linda Godfrey book to Jeremy not too long ago, and she died within 48 hours of me.
Oh, no. We're
book.
taking a bad turn here all of a sudden. We're getting all into death already. We're like not even
It's a
halfway through our
boundary.
first episode.
We are at a boundary. We are
on the edge. We are on the edge of this monster lore tour. That's why it's from the edge of nowhere.
And I know what I saw as the book, and she kind of gets to the heart of it, so I want to just do a short little clip from her here. Alas, interesting, these reports where I have found it is much easier to record encounters than understand them. 26 years of chasing quote-unquote monsters later still comes down to this. Are these sightings simply a combination of mistaken species of known animals, truly undiscovered animals, hoaxes and coincidences? Or are they somehow, perhaps through the power of myth and legend, intertwined with the human mind?
Ooh.
Yeah,
And that question right there is why we need to have a podcast.
That's right.
Because we're going to try to get to the bottom of that.
Exactly. And here's Nick Redfern, who I think adds another quick little gem to this as well. He says, collectively, all of these things amount to an absolute army of otherworldly creatures and half-human monsters that have plagued and tormented us since the dawning of civilization. And that from Shapeshifters, Morphing Monsters, and Changing Cryptids.
It is kind of mind-boggling how pervasive it is through history and through cultures and everything that these monsters are out there somewhere.
Yeah, and I would say for those three cryptozoologists that I picked, Coleman's a 5, maybe Linda Godfrey's a 6. He's after seeing so many accounts.
By the end, she might have been a 7 even.
And Nick Redfern is your molder. He's definitely on the moldery side of things.
Right.
He's the Spinal Tap of the gang, but he makes a compelling case for why this shapeshifter camp is so large and why all these things seem to happen in clusters and why and he's right, they've been tormenting us since time out of mind, which is what we're going to get to, because I dig back to some of the original sources beyond Wikipedia.
I did find a thing online
even.
I don't have the name of it. I'm sure it'll come up later, but that database that I found, the humanoid encounters.
Yeah, you just sent that.
There's something from like 2000 something BC on there.
That's awesome.
Like that's how far back we have recorded stories.
Yeah.
Who knows how far back it goes before that? But like we have recorded cryptid type stories from
Gilgamesh.
Thousands of years ago.
Gilgamesh has got some good ones in there. We'll get to.
Oh, the Bible's got some great
Gilgamesh.
cryptid and like giants and things like that stories going on.
No, I'm excited to get there. And that's giants are on this list. I want to go through the types of monsters so we can kind of get an idea of the general groups of what's considered a monster, as that's what we're going to be talking about. Those with physical deformities can be,
the elephant man.
Yeah.
I am not an animal.
I'm a human being. That X-File episode, do you remember the one where the mutants?
Home. That is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen on TV.
And that's monstrous. It's just genetics gone wrong. And
that's just inbreeding. Yeah.
It's terrible, but it's genetics gone wrong. Hypertrichosis or porphyria, really hairy folks like in India. That
I have porphyria, maybe. It's in my family.
Is it really?
My uncle's diagnosed with it.
Wow. That explains why he kind of looks
Explains the beard, right?
Yeah. Little Jason Momoa and a little Wolfman Jack sitting
there you go.
Right now.
I'll take Wolfman Jack, absolutely.
So if I'm Velma, you're Shaggy with porphyria.
Shaggy with porphyria, yes. And you are... actually, you look like Velma with porphyria. You're way too hairy to be Velma.
I will weigh that.
I mean, you don't have my beard, but it's still a pretty good beard.
I do like purple, but I can't pull off Daphne. I'm just going to say that right now. But some of the other things are just dwarves, things that are very small, or things that are very large can be monstrous.
Anything out of the norm can
Anything
cause a fear sort of reaction in people.
Right.
Just on the instinctive level even.
Right. And the small people themes are everywhere. Everyone has them.
I've been walking down the street and some guy who's obviously like over 7 feet tall walks by, and you do kind of get like a whoa kind of feeling. Nothing against him. I'm sure great dude.
Yep.
I have friends who are almost that tall. Alex Bone's 6'9".
Yeah, exactly.
Supposed I'm standing next to Bone and I look up at him and I'm like, Jesus, this guy's huge.
And we were just in the Superstition Mountains, and that is supposed to be a pygmy tribe there.
Yeah, we were, huh?
But every region has their little small people or their giant stories.
Right,
or both.
right. And either way, it's scary because it's not what we would classify as normal.
Exactly.
And technically, I've actually done a little bit of research into the giant thing as an aside. Did you know that, like, technically, textbook-wise, any person over 7 feet tall is considered a giant?
Right.
There's actually, so if you look at it that
Giants
way,
among us.
there's a pretty good amount of them walking around if you
yeah.
just take it, at that level.
And I think it's when you...
We'll get into much bigger giants and other things when we get there, but I just thought that was an interesting real-world fact, that, like, Shaquille O'Neal is technically a giant. Like, he really is technically a giant.
Yeah, Manute Bol, all those guys.
Yeah.
So also unknown species are monstrous, just the biggest of any species. Do you remember that picture of the manta ray they have on the dock from, I don't remember, it looks like a picture from the 40s or 50s. There's a manta ray that's monstrous.
Where's this?
Page 4. I'm just giving examples. Of things that are big, Jeremy.
Remember that thing you may never have seen in that place you may never have been?
No, most of our fans out here have looked through the biggest creatures, and the manta ray picture is monstrous.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
There's also Hogzilla. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah. There's going to be new Hogzillas with that new breed of boar/pig that's coming down from Canada. You hear about that?
Yeah. And
that's a new real world monster. Like, they're monsters.
Chernobyl, there's things mutating now. We're starting to see what's happening to dogs, what's happening to some...
I'm wondering if those dogs are going to start standing up and walking around on 2 legs or something pretty soon.
There you go. We'll cover that.
Yeah.
It's exactly up our alley.
Yeah.
But essentially, the Hogzilla one was 800 pounds. But even little javelina are nasty. Can you imagine one that is 100 times bigger?
Oh, yeah, dude. My dog and I have definitely had some close encounters with javelina, and I'm just so glad we've never actually gotten charged by one. The big, what do they call the males and females? Doesn't matter. The big old javelina is a big thing to be reckoning with. Like, you don't want that thing coming at you.
Yep. I have my own javelina story.
Not as bad as a bear, but
and the
you have a really good javelina story.
Which, the Patreon members only.
Yeah.
But even the what Jeremy Wade pulls out of fresh water is the monsters that he's pulling out. If you heard about this, if someone told this story, people wouldn't believe it. And then he catches this thing in this little puddle. That's this monstrous fish.
Yeah.
Episode after episode.
There's that oarfish picture too.
Yeah, the oarfish.
That's a good one.
It's
like 30 people holding up the one oarfish.
Yeah, it's a 20-foot creature.
I'm gonna outdo that in my first episode next week.
Yeah. So the other thing, and this is one you might not have heard of, and that's why we always want to make you think outside the box a little bit. There's the monstrous microcosm. Monsters inside of us, not just tapeworms and stuff, but on a microscopic level. I happened to read during the pandemic, I read Mary Jane Rubenstein's Pantheology. It's a great book. I really enjoyed it. And this chapter called Heil blew my mind. It was one of those, I'm just sitting there and only read a paragraph. Yeah, I only read 2 paragraphs, but I read that 2 paragraphs for an hour.
Yeah, the microscopic probably freaks me out the most.
Well, basically she says, and actually there's references within references. This is very scholarly work. I'll try to do best I can just explaining it. But we find the major evolutionary drive is the acquisition of symbionts, little things that work together best.
Okay.
And they're kind of building.
Symbiotic organisms.
Right, and that's Morgelius. And our organisms are not individuals struggling against other individuals, but rather independent crowds of creatures working adaptively together.
That's true. We got like trillions of things in us and on us that make us work.
Right.
It's crazy. You look at the human body, it's like a universe unto itself. Or at least a planet unto itself.
And I knew that, but reading this, it just kind of blew my mind. Mira Hurd, in the same couple of paragraphs, called it an ontology of primordial entanglement. And that was just like one of those. Wow.
Yeah.
And then here's the quote from Pantheology's basic units of biology ought not to be individuals, but rather holobionts, multi-species assemblages that are both more and less than one. All organisms are effectively chimeric.
So nothing is one thing.
Right. Similarly and strikingly, for those who might be listening out of categorical transgression, Sagan goes on, it's not Carl, goes so far as to say, celebrate this irreducible chimerism as monstrous.
Yeah, that is kind of monstrous.
Donna Haraway calls it relationality all the way down.
You want to hear monstrous? There are mites crawling around in your eyebrows right now. Okay, continue.
Yep. Speaking to the mite.
I just
please.
freaked a lot of people out with that one.
Speak better into the mite. Because of this entangled monstrous microcosm, Donna Haraway argues the next epoch should be called Cthulhucene.
Ah, Cthulhu.
Cthulhucene. Next
Oh,
epoch.
no. So we're going to have like 10,000 years of darkness on Earth because the Cthulhu are coming?
You know, these are microbes. They are tiny. We got to remember that.
Yeah, just because they're small. I mean, the size of the Cthulhu doesn't matter. It's still 10,000 years of darkness, right?
Yeah, but you sneezed out a bunch of these Cthulhus earlier today, so don't get too
I have
worked up
Cthulhus
about
in me? See, this is why I don't like the microscopic side.
No.
This part really freaks me out. I'm like
All right,
cringing
we'll
in my
move
chair
on.
right
We'll
now.
move on.
I have Cthulhu in me.
Really good book. Check it out. Mary Jane Rubenstein's Pantheologies. But we are walking communities of collective tribes of tininess is basically what they're getting at.
Yeah,
and the boundaries get murky. And at the
edge
of boundaries
at
are
the edge.
monsters. Monsters on the
Whoa, so how does that translate? So like in between those microorganisms and the actual human, there can be monsters in us as well?
Monsters inside of us.
Is that what cancer
we should do a
is?
TV
Is
show.
cancer really just a monster manifesting amongst the other things within us?
One of the many, I would say.
Wow.
And some of them work together, and then some of them at the edge.
The ones that don't work with the other ones
Yeah.
are the monsters.
Are the monsters. The ones that don't play
Yeah.
nice.
The abnormal. Because that's what cancer is abnormal cells, right?
It's abnormal.
Wow, it really all ties together.
Yeah. Mel Brooks, I knew would come in at some point. So
My brain is fine, thank you.
the other one is altered states, dream monsters. We're going to go into this because this is one of my US files. I'm going to do someday. I'm going to really get into night terrors, hag, Mara, succubi, and alien abduction snares, machine elves, astral entities, dogs and cats living together. Castanitas,
Chaos in the streets.
Castanitas, inorganic beings, portal guardians, evil malevolent presences.
Yeah, here we go.
So that's going to be fun. And like I said, I this one strikes.
And I'm going to do a whole
close to
bunch of
home.
other stuff you didn't even start talking about yet.
Nice. And we can tag team on that episode if you want. But the paranormal, of course, we're going to hit on. We got to do ghosts, apparitions, poltergeists, monstrous and deadly. There's hallucinogens. We see things when we're on hallucinogens that seem monstrous.
Oh, yeah,
Again.
totally. Especially if you take it in the wrong place at the wrong time and whatnot.
A bad trip is pretty monstrous.
Yeah, I've seen the devil a couple times.
There you go. We'll probably talk about that on one of the podcasts.
Sure.
And meditative monsters. I bet you that's a new one for you.
Meditative monsters?
Well, there's a tantric component to it, but there's also
Well, we were talking, so this goes back to the King Arthur you were talking about. He was meditating, saw the monster, started his quest.
Right.
Is that in these lines?
Right. In some ways, altered states, meditation, very similar. So upon waking is hypnagogic. Upon sleeping, hypnagogic. Upon waking, hypnopompic.
Right.
The borders.
So in the
monsters are there.
that's included in the meditative.
In some ways, it's related.
What's
yeah.
distinct about it? Like meditative is just we change our brain state, and all of a sudden we see these things.
Well, yeah. When you go through the process of the meditative and consciousness pieces,
I'm pretty good at meditating, so I get what you're going for.
The boundaries tend to be pretty monstrous when you get to different levels. And I have a theory, and I talked to you a little bit about this, that at the borders of both, and it's not my theory, I'm just kind of expanding on it a little bit perhaps, but there's angels, demons, but at each level, it's like Ishta Rasha at the top, Ishta Diva at the bottom. It's like if you're going up a level, you're going to see this symbolic image of like a god or a goddess, and that's kind of how you first get to a next level of consciousness. If you're going down, it's an Ishta Rasha, so there's monsters on either side of the level, each boundary of each level of consciousness.
Right.
So I'm trying to look into that more. Rudolf Steiner I found, and this Jeffrey Cohen guy, and there's a lot of folks talking about this, and even on the meditative side, from the transpersonal folks, there's some mention of it. But I was really trying to get at, and boy, went on a tangent there. But INFJs, INFPs.
That was good. That was a tangent?
It was
Wow.
a tangent.
I didn't even realize we weren't still in the episode.
we weren't still there. But INFJs, INFPs, the fact that, because we are sitting with an INFP from Myers-Briggs.
What about them?
Well, they essentially have some superpowery kind of things, and they tend to have symbolic.
You're not supposed to tell everybody I'm a superhero.
Yeah, you are a superhero in my mind. So.
You're blowing my cover, Moss.
Well, negativity, you get right to it, and part of that is that intuitive feelings and perceiving that you can do that others maybe can't.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a
Yeah,
Myers-Briggs.
I definitely have some sense.
And for those not familiar with that, we're talking about personality tests, the Myers-Briggs. There's the introverted, intuitive feeling and judging, which is the INFJ, and the introversion, intuitive feeling and perceiving, which is the INFP. They tend to be the folks that are clairvoyants. They tend to be the folks that see ghosts. They tend to be the folks that see monsters.
Wow.
And they're on the edge of
I didn't even know
our personality levels before we reach another personality level as humans. So they are also at the edge of that.
Again, on the edge.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Because that's on the edge of human consciousness, basically, as far as personality types go.
Right.
So we're more likely to see these monsters.
Exactly. Altered states of consciousness. There's these
That's kind of explain
flashes.
a lot about me, I think.
I do.
Not that I have a ton of stories, but I have some pretty intense ones.
Yep. And I'm kind of everything. I'm kind of a chameleon. I'm very chimeric when it comes to Myers-Briggs. So I'm
I
all over the
believe
map.
that. I believe that. Little personality disorder there, boss. I'm just kidding.
I was acquitted.
He's fine.
I was acquitted. I was. Humans as Monsters is the other one we're going to get into, and I know you're going to take the lead on this, but there's going to be some true crime. There's going to be some cannibals and Hannibals. Hannibals.
It's going to take me a little
sorcerers, evil witches, zombies.
It's going to take me a little bit, but I know everybody likes the true crime, and there are some particularly serial killer type people that I haven't seen covered too much. Not the ones you always hear, the Bundys and whatnot. But a little. I mean, not that they haven't been covered; they're just covered less. Right. But I'm starting to find some angles on one that I'm definitely doing at least one of those. I don't know. I have an arc, but a dozen episodes from now anyway. It might take, but we'll get into that. Yeah.
But you're going to try to bring something new to it, and
yes,
even if he has to be a copycat and go out there and make his own news, he will do that. Right? Bring it up a notch.
Right. I will use my superpowers to come up with a new angle on it, even if it's nonsense. If I can make it sound good, and then say I don't believe it, but at least something.
He's not going to go on a killing spree.
But I won't cheat like that too much. I have one that the theory exists, but it's very little known. So I'm hoping to get it done before everybody knows about it, and then at least it'll sound new.
Yeah, the last year and a half, because we've been practicing and researching and getting ready for this, I keep calling Jeremy every few weeks and say, I know who the Loch Ness Monster is. It's Mr. Jacob Perkins. And then I find, oh, wait, someone wrote a book about this. Never mind.
Right.
It isn't Mr. Jacob Perkins.
Yeah,
Or it
those
is,
damn
but
debunkers,
else,
man. Those Scooby-Doo debunkers.
Or I find it is Mr. Jenkins Perkins, but somebody also discovered it was Mr. Jenkins Perkins, and then I'm sad a little bit. And, it's my ego getting in the way, but we'll overcome the ego. That's part of what we're doing.
And you would have gotten away with it, too, if it weren't for those damn
meddling kids. Here's your favorite. This one I did for you. Clowns. There's a whole section on clowns. Jeremy has a thing for clowns. I don't know why.
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I have an inner clown.
He has an inner clown.
That's how I would put it. Jeremy has an inner clown.
And we don't want to see that inner clown ever. So
he's not really allowed out anymore.
we talked about actually having you dress as him and doing an episode.
The funny part is, dude, is I did that on Halloween a couple times.
A podcast?
And then the very next year was when that whole clown scare of that time came out, when there were all those crazy clowns scaring the hell out of people everywhere. I'm like, damn, I can't wear my costume anymore. Somebody's going to shoot me or something.
Yeah. Well, Jeremy has an altar, and it comes out during this, and I wouldn't even want to interview you as Bubbles.
Oh, my friends hate me when I put it on. No one likes it.
No,
except me.
It's really not okay.
I wouldn't even say except me. I would say except Bubbles. Because after the last time, once I got home from that Halloween, I literally, once I washed the makeup off, I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, I probably shouldn't do that again.
Ever again. Let's never do that again. But
he's an evil clown, that Bubbles.
Yeah, I've seen Bubbles
I didn't commit any felonies or anything, but
that we know of.
I definitely scared the hell out of a lot of people.
And the last thing to just wrap this up, any new species caught, the giant squid is in the books. It's one of the exciting ones in the cryptozoological world because we found something big, and that's not the biggest one. The one off the Japanese coast is not the biggest one.
I love the giant squid because it was myth for so long, and then all of a sudden it was real.
Most of those people who dealt with a giant tentacle coming over all these stories could now be validated.
Yeah, totally validated.
And my brother-in-law has a story about when he was on a submarine of one of his shipmates saying, And it's very, very common to hear this story. It's almost a trope that there's a big eye following the ship, and it's a saucer-shaped eye, and it's a giant squid, and it's thinking the submarine is food.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, think about it. If a squid
if it's attacking whales,
think about the size of an eye in like a normal sized squid.
Right.
It's still huge.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest eyes in the world.
yeah,
Blow that up to,
Yeah.
I don't know, 10, 20, however many times bigger. If that eye becomes proportionate, oh my God, like that eye's as big as your car kind of thing.
the one we saw off the coast of Japan, that 60 to 90 foot, that is a baby. I'm just telling
Yeah.
you, there's bigger ones out there. and
Oh,
we're
down in the
we're gonna
deeps,
get there.
man.
Down in the deeps.
We know more about space than we do about the ocean. Like, we know more about the moon than we do about the bottom of the ocean.
Yep.
And I'm going to do an episode a little in the future that will show us how little we actually know about the moon.
There we go. But our focus, our mission statement really is we're going to cover the creatures deemed monstrous. All types will be more theoretical, and other times hopefully baiting those trail cams, because we do want to catch a real beast too. I don't want to lose.
That's the
We're going to
frustrating
tell the
part.
stories. We're going to tell the spooky stories. We're going to discuss the real creature. But sometimes we are going to get into theory, because what Linda Godfrey said, sometimes is it mixed into the human psyche that we see these things. And it's really going to be tough to hash out sometimes. Sometimes it's going to be a monster in the woods.
Well, you
Sometimes
know
it'll
what
be
it
a mind
is.
monster projected into the woods. What is it?
In my mind, and this fits right in, I just realized how well this fits in with what you've been teaching me today so far. They live on the edge, right?
Living on the
That-
Aerosmith song.
Yeah, that edge between... Shit, I just lost it.
The liminal.
What were
thin
we just
places.
talking about? That edge between... Oh, the real and the psychic, I guess. The real and the imagined.
Right.
Because the brain needs to get... Like, it's not that these things aren't real. It's just that your brain needs to achieve a certain state in order for you to be able to see them. See what I'm saying? They live on that edge between physically being real and perceivable within our, what we would call, world. You know, this
No,
perceivable
I'm totally with
world.
you. I'm totally with you on this.
They live right in between that and where you do, like, enter that dream state, enter
Right.
that psychedelic state, enter that meditative state. It's that hypnagogic, the upon waking and upon sleeping. People have that 30 seconds of in between.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the only place maybe you can see them.
Right. And we're going to get to that.
Wow,
Because you're
it's-
right on.
They're right on the boundary of being real and not real.
But there's also a piece.
Real, as in physical.
But there's
I
a
guess.
piece that you hit on. We're going to get to it when we talk about like hermetic knowledge. That when you look at it from a different level of consciousness, the same experience is going to be viewed differently by different people.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and I got an example
Because
of
the
that,
mindset,
I
yeah.
think today.
Wow,
I think I have it at
okay.
the end, so we'll get there. You're jumping ahead, but you're a good student, and that's, surprising. No. I kid.
I love learning from you, Maz. That's why
we
you're my
go.
partner
There
here.
we
That's
go.
why you're the Batman.
That's right. So anyway, so we got some commonality stories we're going to be discussing. I made a spreadsheet I want to show you, and it's really getting away from my first episode, but we want to do spreadsheets. We want to do
This is that work of mad
data-driven.
genius you were telling me about with like 42 columns or something on a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, someone really has to teach me how to use Excel better. I used to have people for that in my day job. Be like, could you make this Excel spreadsheet look really nice? And this is what I want on it. Now I have to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So if anybody's
We-
out there,
we
we
need
need
an-
an intern.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. We need
Yes.
an intern.
But we want to break down these things as far as sound, height, weight, locomotion. We want to break down each thing that people are saying and try to find out what's similar, what are people saying most, and what are people saying that are maybe outliers.
What are the
What are the
overlapping
patterns?
characteristics?
What are the themes? Correct.
Because you're saying they're chimeric. They're not just one thing. So what if it's all? What if ultimately it is just one thing taking all these different forms? The red eye ones and the yellow eye ones and the black eyed ones, and
Yeah.
what if they all stem from the same origin, the same root, as it were?
I think you're getting too negativa on us.
Yes, I'm diving in bodily. See that you totally got my number.
I want to look at the data and see where the data leads. Okay,
I am the negativa INFP. I can't help myself.
Jumping ahead to the end, and I'm going to Coleman this stuff.
Okay, I'll do my anywho. That clears my brain. Anywho, back to you, Maz.
Thank you, sir. But no, you're right on. We're going to talk more about that, but I do want to get this data together, and then we're going to discuss what we're seeing, and we're going to have more to come on a lot of these issues. Some of the mythical, anthropological, archetypal, comparative myth stuff I love. So you have to reel me in sometimes because I get into that a little bit.
It's going to be hard. I love that stuff too, but I'll do my best.
I came across this. Yeah, I know. We both like it, so hopefully we don't go too off onto that. Because like I said, some people want to hear the scary stories. They want to get to the real monster, and we'll theorize ourselves into oblivion if we don't.
Right.
We don't watch it.
And we want to bring you a bunch of everything on this. So we're doing interviews and we're doing the stories and accounts and stuff, but also the theorizing and the deep research and all that.
But we want to rip the mask off Mr. Jenkinparker.
Yeah. So we want to debunk the debunkers and take the mask off the Bigfoot and say, see, he is real.
What if it's Scully under there?
I'd be psyched.
But then it was kind of a lie.
Gillian Anderson's awesome still, man.
But she was just lying to us. She was pretending to be the monster. So she was kind of, I'm just saying, if she ends up being the monster, I don't like her as much.
So Scully was the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're breaking my heart, dude.
Let me get back. Yasmin Musharbash I found recently.
Try that again.
Okay. Well, I found Yasmin Musharbash. She is a professor, and she is into the whole monster scene, and she's got some great stuff. And here's a little quote from her, I think is a good kickoff quote. More often than not, anthropologists focus their efforts on distinct monsters. They work either on witches or spirits or the devil, but make little or no reference to any overarching theorization of a monster as a phenomenon. That
is the error that they make in the mainstream, absolutely.
And that's what we're going to do. Because Yasmin's doing it too, and I'm reading a lot of her stuff, and we're going to do it here. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to solve some of these things.
Let's hope.
Yep. And the other piece of it is, on the mythos side is, why are some of these global themes so pervasive? And the two pieces of it is there's the local kind of flavor, that ethno-known, this Adolf Bastian was kind of a precursor to like Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung, and he had this Volksgedanken, which is like the people's story, the flavor of the area of a critter.
Right.
And then there was these more Elementargedanken, which he said was more kind of ties into the archetypes, and like everybody experiences something similar. So there's a local color and flavor, and there's a monster that seems to be pervasive in again, maybe the human psyche. Maybe it's out there.
Like you have the werewolf, you have the dog man, you have the skin
walker.
Like all kind of on the same branch of the tree.
Right.
It depends on where in the world you are as to which version of it you're going to get.
Yeah, and people also get really annoyed when you step on their Volksgedanken, their personal story.
Leave my Volksgedanken out of this.
Exactly. And we don't want to do that. We want to try to honor the tradition of the area. But we are structuralists, or at least I am, in a way where we're trying to also shovel things into one thing, and people don't always like that. So for those of you who are offended by that, that is what we're going to be doing.
Right. We mean no offense. We're trying to find the commonalities, which means we're going to be grouping things together in certain ways. We might cross up our terminology a bit and whatnot, but, we're...
a work in progress.
Yeah, we are all-inclusive paranormalists. We're just trying to get to the bottom of things is all.
Yeah, and let us know if we mess up. We'll try to make good. If you're super sensitive about these things, maybe this isn't the place.
And I haven't mentioned, this would be a good time. If you do want to correct us on something we had gotten wrong, give us some additional information to lead us farther down the path, things like that.
Email Jeremy directly because it wasn't me. It was probably him.
Most importantly, tell us your own stories because we do want to start getting the listener stories coming in. Easy to remember, just monsterloretour@gmail.com. Eventually, we're going to have some chat set up on the website or other places, but we haven't quite got that far yet. But you can always email us at monsterloretour@gmail.com.
Do you know how far we did get, though?
How far did we get?
To Carl Jung.
Nice.
And he has.
We went so far, we're young again.
We're back to the archetypes. I just want to, he had a belief that actually the each expression,
The helicopter's here.
Well, it's perfect timing.
You hear that?
It's perfect timing because UFOs, which we don't know necessarily it's a helicopter right now, even though we do because we're like 5 feet from a hospital with a heliport.
Yeah.
But he thought that the UFOs were this new budding Mandela, which was kind of like bursting forth this new level of consciousness, and that's the symbolic representation of it. And again, that's that how we're interpreting it now is through UFOs. So he kind of got into this a little bit. Yeah, that this is when you get that's the Ishtadiva. You get a little taste of it symbolically as you're reaching that kind of next level. We're going to talk more about that. I know we're kind of off topic with that a little bit.
I will be getting into UFO, at least UAP tangent stuff very soon.
Real soon.
Very soon.
And the 3 things that happen in monstrous myths, they're sent by gods to punish humans, but there's 3 things that you can do when faced with a monster. And Jeremy, what would you do? This is then the mythic side of life now. What would you do faced with a monster? It's a real monster, but we're talking about a folklore, mythic kind of vibe. What would you do? You're in a night, you got a sword, there's a monster.
Okay.
What's your 3 choices?
I am Beowulf.
You hear me roar?
And Grendel's coming.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or Grendel's
it's
mother.
the,
It's both of them.
The F's, the flee, fight, freeze.
And don't do the other thing with the monster because they don't like that.
Right? Something like that.
The other F, don't try it. Don't try it.
Oh, right. I got to do it, though.
Well, you can run. You said one of them. You can flee.
Yeah.
That was
you
the
run, you flee, you fight, or you control, like you tame.
Right.
Would be the other one, right? Are the 4 things you could do?
There's one. There's a couple more, but that's great. So basically,
Good
you can
start.
run
Am I
from
close?
Yeah, and you can run from it. Sometimes that's considered the fail of the hero's journey.
Running is the coward's way, right?
But it's sometimes the best way. I mean,
survive to fight another day.
Survive. Too. I mean, if it's like Odysseus didn't kill Polyphemus, he injured him and snuck out of the cave. Like sometimes getting out of there is the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
But slaying it is what's most common. That's the hero's journey, which is kind of more of a symbolic thing to moving to a next level of consciousness. You're kind of slaying the beast of individuate. You're kind of becoming individuated, and you're kind of moving on to kind of being a master of your environment.
It's
reaching
like
another
exercising
level.
your demons, killing your monster, all that stuff, achieving a new level of consciousness or existence or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
Emotionality, maybe sometimes.
Yep. And then taming it is another great way, and the one who did that was Gilgamesh with Enkidu. You remember those Sumerian?
Enkidu.
Yeah, Enkidu was the kind of wild man that Gilgamesh fights and then befriends.
Oh, yeah, the hairy wild man.
It's really just another boy in a Squatch story. If you
Boy
want
in a Squatch. There you go.
But
I want me a Squatch.
Yeah, but
I have my dog. She's all I need.
But he tamed it, and that's the other thing. The other piece of it is you can surrender to it, which actually isn't a cop-out, depending on the situation.
That's the freeze, right? The surrender.
Freezing is different. Freezing is you're scared and you're prey and you're going to be eaten.
Oh, you're talking like surrender.
Surrender to the experience.
Just give
to what's
yourself
happening.
Over without fear. It's not a fearful thing.
Correct.
It's just a giving yourself over.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stories about that, from Jonah to Hiawatha to Raven to some Zulu legends.
To Jesus on the cross. Like, he accepted that. He didn't need to do that.
Yeah, the death of the lower self.
That was his surrender to...
Right, the death of the lower self.
Yeah.
And then kind of a ride twice
so
born
that
stuff.
he could go through that portal. That sometimes, I guess, death is the portal rather than a monster itself.
Back to the death. And the shaman's journey is the same thing. Often it's swallowed by the snake. You have to just relax, be swallowed by the snake. That's part of the initiation. You're torn apart, but you're put back together usually. Usually. They forget a bone, they add a bone, but it's all...
when you take some apart and put it back together, you usually have a couple of those screws left over.
That's what happens. That's actually part of the shamanic piece, is that there's like an extra bone or a missing bone. So they don't quite get it right. It's like an IKEA. They don't have the directions.
Where the hell did this thing go? Whatever. He doesn't need that. He's fine.
He's going to be fine. But there's one more thing you can do with him, Jeremy.
Oh, boy.
And I just added this morning.
Okay. This morning, huh?
You can make a podcast about them.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's the best idea.
That's the best idea.
That's the best idea.
I'm going to end this section with a little Jung. As scientific understanding has grown, so our world has become dehumanized. Man feels himself isolated in the cosmos because he's no longer involved in nature and has lost his emotional unconscious identity with natural phenomena. These have slowly lost their symbolic implications. Thunder is no longer the voice of an angry god, nor is lightning his avenging missile. No river contains a spirit, no tree is the life principle of a man, no snake the embodiment of wisdom, no mountain cave the home of a great demon. No voice now speak to man from stones, plants, and animals, nor does he speak to them, believing they can hear. His contact with nature is gone, and with it has gone the profound emotional energy that the symbolic connection supplied.
And in a general case, I absolutely agree with that. The state of the world now, where humans generally are so detached from nature, I think it's going to be our downfall.
Yeah, past tense at this point, but
yeah, like it's happening already. We're not going to get political on here, we said,
Yeah.
but so we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave that at that. But I'll spend some time there in mythic lands to try to revive some of those water sprites and nymphs, you know.
Yeah.
And but don't look at them when they're bathing, because sometimes that could.
The imps are my
end
favorite.
Badly, yeah. The nymphs and the sirens, they're fun. They're fun for a little while.
Yeah.
Till you crash your ship and.
I'm a couple hooves short of being a satyr myself, so.
I don't know. I've seen you play the flute in the woods.
I didn't say I was good at it.
Yeah. So. But anyway, I also want to approach it from the philosophical, neuropsychological, cognitive approach. So we're going to do the latest theories. We're going to bring the Mulder side in, the Scully Muggles. We're going to find out our Scully Muggle is basically the non-believer who we deal with all the time, the baloney detector people.
Right.
The Carl Sagans of the world, the demon-haunted worlds.
I believe the segment is called Sir Richard Scully Muggle's Skeptics Review.
There you go.
That kind of explains it all right there.
There you go. And then Colin Wilson has a quote here I want to really quickly. While I was by no means entirely skeptical, I felt most people are interested in the supernatural for the wrong reasons. And he was talking about us.
Interesting.
He was talking about us, Jeremy.
No, I think we're in it for the right reasons. We want to educate. We want to expand minds. We want to discover new truths. That's the right reason to do something, right?
But we're the cryptozoologists your mother warned you about. We are those cryptozoologists.
Well, yeah, my mother warns me about myself a lot.
Can that be our logo? We're the cryptozoologists your mother warned us about.
We're the podcast your mother warned you about.
There you go. And then spiritual consciousness we talked about really quickly. We're going to get into that whole guardian portal stuff that's going on from the Hindu side to all the different why these portal guardians tend to show up time and time again, and how relevant it is to all these sightings in the woods. I think there's an argument for that. We're going to get into the Kabbalah, Hermetic wisdoms, open up those grimoires, dust off the top. It's time to get jinkies with it, as Velma would say.
Getting jinky with it.
We're going to get jinky with it. We have an Alhul guano file, which is basically the Alhul is a bat creature. So we have this Alhul guano file.
Well, the Alhul is a giant bat man. Well, I guess we started this episode right.
Yeah.
So Alhul guano is giant batshit theory.
Right.
Is basically what that translates to.
Yep.
The craziest thing we can think of on the topic we're discussing.
It's kind of a non-thought experiment because it's really no thought involved.
Yeah, there you go.
But additionally...
That's where we get to be as weird as we want, is in the Ahul Guano segment.
Yes, and then we follow it up with my favorite and your favorite segment, the Wolfman Puck.
That is a very controversial segment.
Well, we
might be our
had
best,
a couple of
but my
practice
least
episode. It's my favorite. How would the critter taste, and what beer would you serve with it? I mean, we want to kind of pair it with the right beer from the right regional area.
Right.
So
if the Wolfman had a cryptid, a restaurant that served cryptids, and we're not eating it ourselves. I just want to drive that home because I know some of the things that are coming up, and I definitely do it under protest in some episodes.
That's right. But weirdness is
Maz is a mean dude. Let's put it that way.
Weirdness is already afoot because I told you strange things have happened since I've started researching this.
Yeah.
So strange things have happened even in my world that are somewhat disturbing, somewhat interesting, sometimes funny.
Maz, I had to move because of this podcast. We'll get into that later, though.
You haven't told me. I know you moved, but you didn't tell me.
We'll get into it later.
That. Okay.
Jumping the gun. That's a few episodes away.
Well, nice. But basically, I want to wrap it up here. But I want to leave you with one last thought, because we're also going to look at this from a Hardy Boys perspective. Is really what I want to do.
Are we seriously talking about the Hardy Boys again right now?
Well, we got to bring in Scooby-Doo.
This is a paranormal podcast, dude. In the 21st century, and you're coming at me again with the Hardy Boys.
There's already history here, and because we've practiced a couple of episodes, I think art mimics life, and I talk about Scooby-Doo and the Hardy Boys a lot, and Jeremy hates it, and we're going to have to hash this out in real time.
Well, I love Scooby-Doo. The Hardy Boys thing, you kind of lose me.
Okay, but I went with 3 investigators over that.
Dating yourself.
I would never date myself. I'm not my type.
No one else wants to date you either.
Hey now.
I set you up for that on purpose, by the way.
This is true. So, but essentially, I wanted to end with an example here, and it comes back to exactly what you said, because you already kind of hit on it with. If you look at things from a different perspective, people who are in the same room might be having a different experience with a phenomenon that's happening somewhere.
Right.
And this is kind of a hermetic. There's different poles of energy. So if you look at it from a very dark place, kind of a middle place, and kind of a very high place, you might actually see something different.
Right.
And the example I want to give today is going to Toltec wisdom, which is basically Central America and Mexico, kind of sorcery down there. A lower frequency would be Tetzalcoatl, and he's kind of Quetzalcoatl's brother. He's a Toltec god representing all the darker aspects of the trickster and all that can be considered evil or immoral. Smoky Mirror is his nickname.
So he's like a Loki kind of guy.
Yes, and as he blocks the light of the true self, he's this darker aspect of his brother, and it's together when they combine.
There's that yin-yang thing again.
Yeah, and he's the dark. Yes, he's the yin, he's the yang, and I don't think you get anywhere until they actually resolve each other, and that's kind of a theme, again, that keeps coming up.
It's also very Star Wars, like bringing balance to the Force. You have the Sith and the Jedi and all that. Like, it's pervasive through culture, that story.
Well, we'll be talking about the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung, and that's what, that's what our friend at Star Wars, what's his name? Help me out. George Lucas actually was based that on. So there's a connection there. But so from the Toltec side, the dark would be this dark god, Smoky Mirror, Tetzalcoatl. The middle frequency, I think, would be from that area, would be Carlos Castaneda, who's kind of on the hero's journey. He's trying to learn from his shaman. Yeah. But there's still organic beings out there. There's still this other, and he's fighting it. There's this journey quality. We're going on a journey. We're on a journey.
Let's go, man. Monster Lore Tour for a reason. We're going on tour through the world of the cryptid.
Exactly.
And the monstrous and the alien and anything that might freak you out when you try to go to sleep tonight.
And I think that's where we're starting, is in that middle ground. And we could get dark or we could get light. I guess we'll find out.
I'm hoping that some episodes are actually light side. We find a way to do that.
Well, on that note, the higher vibrational from that same Toltec wisdom, if those familiar with the Ruiz brothers, the Four Agreements, Beyond Fear, those books about sure. Looking totally from a perspective of love. You always say that your journey from hate to love.
The long journey from hate to love, yes, sir. That's the road we're on.
Yep, I hate that, but but that's looking at the Toltec wisdom.
I'll make sure to use it a lot then.
Thank you. But there's your Toltec wisdom from a darker side, kind of from a middle, from the hero's journey at the end of or beginning of individuation, of the death of the ego, and then you've got this higher enlightenment piece. One area, 3 different, from monstrous to to angelic, basically. And I think we're going to be exploring the darker realms in the beginning, and I think we're going to, this is a monster podcast, so it's going to get pretty dark. Yeah. But I think you have to explore the dark with a flashlight before you can get to the light. And that's
and that's why it starts at hate and moves to love.
Yep.
We start in the darkness, we start in the cave, and we move to the sun.
So, I want to wrap this up. I know we went over for our first intro because we had so much fun chatting about future episodes, basically. We had some little teaser alerts. But do you have anything else to add?
I do want to add, I will need your references and stuff, Moz, because we will be putting all the references, the books we mentioned, the authors, and all the different sources.
Oh, I can do that right now. Hardy Boys in the Secret Tower, Hardy Boys in the Terror Cliffs, and
oh my God, the
Hardy Boys, and I can get you all.
Moz is old, everybody. But yes, we will be putting all those in the show notes. We'll try to say them in the episode when we are of solid enough mind to do so, but anything we miss will be in the show notes, so you can check out our reading list, basically.
Yeah, I'm going to give the full references, and if I get something wrong, let me know. I do want to get it right. I will have kind of APA-style references at the end of each show, and some of them are going to be 5 or 6, and some are going to be 56, because some of these things are getting deeper.
Yep.
And like I said, I'm hoping to be on the deeper end of the dives that you may be accustomed to.
Perfect. Yes, we're going to go as deep as we can manage, down with those giant squid on the bottom of the trench there.
Yep.
But okay, so we'll wrap this one up. First episode in the books, everybody. Thanks for coming. Send your stories, questions, comments, anything we could add, correct, things like that, to monsterloretour@gmail.com. And hopefully in the near future we'll have some kind of chat space set up for our community to go and have a little bit more collaboration in our communications.
Right.
But so that does it. Thanks for coming, everybody. We will see you next time.
I'm Batman.
Have a good one, listener. Monster Lore Tour Podcast.
No, 10 is always got like. Did you watch Spinal Tap?
Shut